In 2003, scientists brought back the extinct Pyrenean ibex, only to watch it suffocate and die 7 minutes later, making it the first animal driven to extinction twice. They used DNA from a frozen ear to outsmart nature, but at what cost? The Lazarus Project was not just a scientific gamble, it was a warning. What really happens when we cross the ultimate boundary between life and death? A technician lifts a vial from a rack chilled by vapor. Inside, a sliver of skin taken from Celia, the last Pyrenean ibex, has been kept at -196 degrees Celsius since 1999. The process begins with a single cell. Its nucleus, carrying all of Celia's genetic instructions, is carefully extracted. Next, an unfertilized egg from a domestic goat is prepared. Under a microscope, its own nucleus is removed, emptied of its original identity. The ibex nucleus is then slipped inside. A brief electrical pulse jolts the hybrid cell, forcing it to behave like a fertilized embryo. If the timing is off by even seconds, the cell collapses. If the tools press too hard, the delicate membrane ruptures. Most attempts fail before the first division. For every embryo that survives, the next step is a chemical bath to coax it into dividing. Out of hundreds, only a handful reach the stage where they can be implanted. Each viable embryo is placed into a surrogate mother, domestic goat, Spanish ibex, or a hybrid. The surrogate's body must accept the embryo as its own, nurture it for months, and survive the stress of an unnatural pregnancy. Every stage is a gamble. The line between success and failure is razor thin. In the case of the Bucardo, 285 reconstructed embryos yielded just one live birth. The entire method relies on precision, but even the smallest error can doom the result. Cloning the dead is not a miracle. It is a fragile chain of steps, each one threatened by silence, by chance, by the limits of biology. No extinct animal can give consent. The Pyrenean ibex did not choose to return, nor could it. Every act of resurrection begins with a silent body and ends with a living being that never asked to exist. Ethicists warn that cloning the dead turns life into a tool, an object for human ambition, not a subject with its own dignity. Immanuel Kant wrote that treating any being as a means to an end erases its worth. In the case of de-extinction, the animal's life is orchestrated for curiosity, for spectacle, or for scientific pride. Nature's signature is change. The world that once belonged to the Bucardo has vanished, forests have shifted, predators and prey have moved on, and the ecosystem that shaped its instincts no longer exists. A resurrected animal, shaped by old genes, is forced into a world it cannot recognize. Conservationists argue that reviving extinct species risks disrupting fragile habitats. An animal brought back from the dead may become an ecological orphan, unable to fit or survive. Some scientists defend the practice, claiming that knowledge justifies the means. But the line between research and exploitation blurs when life is manufactured for study. The question lingers, does the act of cloning honor the lost, or does it violate the boundary between memory and manipulation? As the ambitions of de-extinction grow, the burden of justification grows heavier. The ethics of the grave are not swept away by technical success. They deepen with every attempt to cheat death. Colossal Biosciences has raised more than $400 million from venture capitalists, tech moguls, and celebrity investors. Their goal is to produce a living woolly mammoth by 2028 using the Asian elephant as a genetic canvas. The company's founders talk about restoring lost ecosystems and fighting climate change, but the project's scale and spectacle are impossible to ignore. Harvard geneticist George Church oversees the gene editing work, while Chief Executive Officer Ben Lamb promises a future where herds of mammoth-like hybrids roam the Arctic tundra. The method is not simple cloning. Instead, scientists use CRISPR to splice dozens of mammoth genes, those for thick fur, subcutaneous fat, and cold resistance, into elephant DNA. The edited cells are coaxed into embryos, which will be implanted into elephant surrogates or grown in artificial wombs. Colossal's press releases claim that over 60 mammoth genes have already been edited into living cells. Supporters say the project could help slow permafrost melt and capture carbon, but critics see a billionaire's playground, an expensive experiment with unpredictable consequences. The International Union for Conservation of Nature warns that resurrected mammoths could disrupt fragile northern habitats or become ecological orphans like the cloned ibex. For every dollar spent on de-extinction, less is available for the elephants and rhinos fighting to survive today. The line between scientific ambition and spectacle blurs as the money and promises grow ever larger. Is this work truly about restoring lost ecosystems, or is it an extravagant display with a dangerous cost? The question hangs over the tundra, and it forces us to ask what we owe the species we have left before we try to bring back the ones we lost. Cloning does not end with a single birth. Hidden in the statistics are hundreds of silent losses, embryos that never implant, fetuses lost midway, and surrogates that pay the price with their bodies. In the Pyrenean ibex project, 285 reconstructed embryos were created and only 54 were transferred to surrogates. Most pregnancies failed long before term. Among large mammals cloned by somatic cell nuclear transfer, miscarriage rates routinely exceed 70%. Even when pregnancies progress, the risk to surrogate mothers is severe. Placental abnormalities, fluid buildup, and oversized fetuses can cause chronic pain, infection, or death. Veterinary records from cattle and sheep cloning reveal that surrogates face up to 10 times the risk of fatal complications compared to natural pregnancies. The few offspring that survive birth often carry the scars of their unnatural origins, organ malformations, immune deficiencies, and rapid aging. The cloned ibex died within minutes from a malformed lung, but many others never make it that far. For every so-called miracle, dozens of animals suffer behind laboratory doors. The cost of resurrection is not measured in headlines, but in the quiet toll on bodies that never chose to be part of the experiment. Rumors swirl in the shadows of every breakthrough. For years, whispers have circulated about hidden laboratories, places where extinct creatures are cloned in secret, far from regulatory eyes. No government has ever confirmed the existence of such facilities. Journalists have chased leads and filed Freedom of Information requests, but the trail always ends at locked doors or redacted memos. The absence of proof does little to quiet suspicion. When the stakes are this high, even silence breeds mistrust. Scientists and biotech companies argue that secrecy is necessary to protect intellectual property and to prevent biosecurity threats. But the lack of transparency creates fertile ground for conspiracy. Stories spread online about vanished embryos, unauthorized animal hybrids, and clandestine experiments that cross ethical boundaries. None of these claims have been substantiated by credible evidence. Still, the very nature of cloning, its reliance on proprietary methods, closed-door procedures, and complex regulations, makes oversight difficult. Public trust depends on sunlight. Without independent review or clear reporting, the line between innovation and recklessness blurs. As projects grow larger and funding pours in, calls for stricter oversight intensify. The question is no longer just about biology, but about who decides what happens next and who is left in the dark. Funding for de-extinction now rivals the budgets of entire conservation programs. In 2025, over $400 million flowed into mammoth resurrection, while some of the world's last wild elephants face extinction for lack of resources. Conservation biologists warn that every dollar spent reviving the dead is a dollar not spent saving the living. The trade-off is not hypothetical. Protected habitats shrink as donors chase the spectacle of lost giants. The lines grow even more blurred when science crosses into primate cloning. In 2018, researchers in China announced the birth of Zhong and Hua, the first cloned macaques. The process required dozens of failed attempts, and it resulted in severe health problems for many of the surrogate mothers. Regulatory bodies scrambled to respond, but the precedent was set. The technical barrier to primate cloning had fallen. Ethicists and lawmakers now face a question that cannot be ignored. If it is possible to clone a primate, the leap to cloning a human is no longer science fiction. As money and ambition pour into the Lazarus Project and its successors, the world stands on the edge of a line that, once crossed, cannot be redrawn. The cost is not just financial, it is existential. Who decides what should be brought back, and at what price to the living and the yet unborn? Today, scientists can resurrect vanished species with a frozen cell and a spark of ambition. But as extinction accelerates, the real test is not reviving the dead, it is protecting the living. Our future depends on knowing which boundaries science should cross and which are better left untouched. What would you choose?